Hello and welcome. Welcome to Quest Connect. My name is Rachael Rogan, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today. And just as we all settle in, that I'm just going to double check that everybody is seeing and hearing me clearly. And before I start, I'm very curious where you are watching from. I'm curious who's here. And if you wish to let everyone know where you are joining us from. And as we start our hour together at Connect with Quest, it's quite cool here, and I think it might be most of Australia. So let me know otherwise if it's a little patch of paradise where you are. So today, that our hour together presents an opportunity to take a short break in our day to practice bringing a sense of calm, a connection to ourselves and to others, and a kindness also to ourselves and to practice it for others as well. That at Quest for Life, as you're very well aware, there's a creation of space for healing, growth, and a special connection. So you might also like to put into the comments if you have attended a Quest program. So if you have started or experienced a Quest program, that you might be familiar of coming to your senses. So if you're new to experiencing coming to the senses, it starts by finding a comfortable position. So wherever you are, whether you're seated or lying down, that it's nice just to notice and experience 3 slow, deliberate breaths. So let's take them together, and with each exhale, possibly letting your body settle a little bit more. So with each exhale, that you might feel the weight of your shoulders sinking into the hips, just connecting with the movement of your breath. And with your final exhale, if you gently allow your eyes to close, or soften your gaze if you prefer, and let your facial muscles soften, that the forehead, the cheeks and jaw, softening around the mouth, and perhaps let a soft smile rest at the corners of your lips. And then having a sense of simply arriving, that there's no need to change anything. Just allow yourself to be as you are. That this moment in time is about being curious and aware of the here and now. So let's start by tuning into your body. Notice how it feels to rest in the position that you've chosen. If you need to adjust or change, just letting the sensations of how you're feeling with the connection you have with the surface beneath you. Noticing the support that the surface underneath you is allowing, and if it's suitable for you, and make adjustments if you need to. That you might bring awareness to the points of contact where your body meets the chair, the floor, or the bed. And feel the texture or weight or firmness of these connections. How does your skin feel? Is it warm or is it cool? Notice the way your clothes rest against your body and how they shift with the rhythm of your breath without trying to alter anything. Just noticing, allow yourself to explore any sensations. And next, bring your awareness to the sense of smell. What aromas, if any, are present in the air? Notice as the air enters the body as you breathe deeply. Is there a faint scent, or perhaps none at all? Now gently turn your attention to your sense of smell. Take a slow breath in through the nose. Is there a scent? Is there something subtle, earthy, sweet, or fresh? Let the experience be whatever it is. Let the aroma or the absence of an aroma simply be part of your moment. That you might even notice a taste on your tongue, the lingering flavour of a drink or a meal. There may be something that you can taste that's sweet or neutral or metallic. And let the smell and taste meet quietly in your awareness. And take a moment to observe how these senses complement one another, creating a unique experience just for you. Now, if you've chosen to close your eyes or the soft gaze with your eyes, notice the light that is drawing into your eyes, sorry. It might be through the eyelids or noticing the shapes, any colours or shadows that appear. And if your eyes are open, just let them softly take in your surroundings, to observe the textures, the colours, and the way light and shadow interact in your space. Allow your eyes to relax as you take in this visual awareness. And then shifting to sound, become aware of the noises around you. Maybe there's a bird calling, or the rustle of leaves, or the pitter-patter of rain. Maybe there's a hum of distant traffic, or the faint ticking of a clock. And just noticing the sound of your own breathing. Let your ears explore both the close and distant sounds without attaching meaning or judgment to any of them. And now draw your focus to your breath. Feel the coolness of the air as it enters your nostrils, the gentle warmth as it leaves. Notice the rise and fall of your chest or belly, the pauses between each inhale and exhale. Let the rhythm of your breath anchor you in this moment. Noticing the gentle movement of your breath, massaging, soothing. Noticing the movement of the breath in the front of the body, in the back of your body. And as you hold space for any sensations, any sounds, taste, smell, just allowing this moment to be observed, to be curious, that soon we'll begin to transition out of this practice. So just take a look around, experience right now. And then you might take a moment to deepen your breathing. And let each inhale fill your belly fully. Feel the lift in the base of your chest. And with each exhale, release any tension or tightness that you might feel. You may gently invite small movements back into your body. That you might wiggle your fingers and toes. And maybe roll your shoulders or stretch your neck. And when you feel ready, you may slowly open your eyes, allowing the light to re-enter your awareness. And take a moment to adjust and to settle. And finally, if you wish, to take 3 deep breaths together. And on each inhale, welcome a sense of calm and clarity. And with each exhale, let go of anything that no longer serves you. And set a gentle intention to carry this sense of grounded awareness with you. Bring it with you into the rest of your day. And as you let your senses guide you back to wherever you need, that you are here, you are present, and you are more grounded. So I hope that you've enjoyed coming to your senses. It's something that you can do throughout your days, and there's never too many times that you can do it. It really is a really enjoyable practice, whenever, wherever. So today our subject is on forgiveness, and it is in line with Forgiveness Awareness Week, that there is many promotions that you might find in your local area that promote coming together. So I'd like to start by saying that forgiveness isn't always easy, that forgiveness is not always tidy and neat or simple. But there's a lot of supporting research saying that it's very powerful. And today we're going to take a compassionate and science-backed look at forgiveness. What is it? What it isn't? And how it can transform your health, that your relationships and also your inner life can take a shift. That forgiveness can be a powerful tool for emotional healing, but it's also one of the most complex and deeply personal processes, especially if it's something that has rattled your world. So, what is it that makes it so challenging? And what can help us to possibly contemplate or move towards forgiveness in a way that feels safe, empowering, and grounded in your lived experience? that forgiveness is one of those profound human experiences that can help us reconcile differences. It can help repair relationships, and yet it's often much harder to practice than we expect. In day-to-day life, letting go of resentment or anger can feel like an impossible task, especially when you're still in pain. So why even aspire to forgive? And what does it actually look like in the body and the brain? That science can show that forgiveness isn't just an emotional decision, that it's a physiological shift, that forgiveness involves regulating our nervous system, calming the stress response, and reducing the emotional charge that's tied to the harm that we've experienced. So, in other words, forgiveness can change our inner landscape. And with forgiveness, it's not about excusing harm or bypassing pain. That what we're discussing today is more about releasing ourselves or contemplating releasing ourselves from the grip of resentment. That when we talk about forgiveness, that it's great to first unpack what we actually mean. That forgiveness means different things to different people. Sometimes it's misunderstood as condoning bad behavior, or it could be very deep about somebody that has hurt us again and again. In reality, forgiveness is more about the self, yourself, than it is about the other person. That possibly a helpful definition sees forgiveness as a shift in motivation, that it's a moving away from retaliation or avoidance and towards adopting more goodwill for you, or at least an emotional neutrality towards the person who caused harm. And it could be a release, that possibly the first release is letting go of the grip of a negative effect, wanting to dispel rumination, the ruminative thoughts. And there's also an offering that has been coined altruistic gift, that it's a choice to release yourself from the emotional burden. And even if the person that has harmed or the person that you have a conflict with never apologizes or never acknowledges the harm that they have created. And the other part of forgiveness is being patient and allowing time. So forgiveness is not instantaneous, that it can be a very long process. And how long it takes depends on how we approach the process, the depth of the hurt. And there's also a lot in the way of the difference of making that decision, the decisional forgiveness. And yet you can make an effort to release all the negative grip of the past wrongdoings. But there's also an emotional forgiveness. That decisional forgiveness is more in the thoughts, more in the cognitive. That it's when we choose to forgive. That, again, it's not instantaneous, this process. And perhaps it's more in a detached way, where it's something that hasn't deeply shaken your world. So it might be forgiving a stranger or someone that we're unlikely to see again. But then there's the emotional forgiveness that is deeper. That the emotional forgiveness, it involves a transformation in how we feel and think about someone that we had a connection to, and possibly that wasn't able to see or understand the relationship and how much their harm has affected. That it can be like a full circle moment, that you want to let go of that grip of negativity, the emotion about wanting to forgive the past wrongdoing, and understanding that it is a process, that it isn't instantaneous. That one of the biggest myths about forgiveness is the idea that from the wrongdoing and the anger and the emotion that we have around that wrongdoing, that if we hold on to the anger and the resentment, that somehow it punishes the other person. And not forgiving or not starting the process of reducing the grip of the harm, that often it only hurts us, the person that has been emotionally stuck and tied to someone else's actions or bad behavior long after the harm or the occurrence happened. So forgiveness can sometimes be a process of improving on our own happiness, our gift to ourselves. And it can improve self-esteem, that it can reduce stress and realign us with our values. And it's not about saying what happened was okay. It's more about reclaiming our peace. That, as we mentioned, or as I mentioned, that there's a common misconception, and that forgiveness and reconciliation are the same thing, and they're not. You can absolutely forgive someone and still choose not to continue any contact or relationship with that person. That in yourself, you in time might be able to wish them no harm, wish them well from afar, and distance yourself and walk away. Walk away from the anger and resentment that you're holding around that. That when the forgiving nature and the process of forgiveness, that it becomes more about your healing, not necessarily about restoring connection. And it's especially crucial when the person that has harmed, especially if it may be an very unsafe or unhealthy connection, that it's definitely part of your healing to remove yourself from any connection or any emotional charge. So we're going to talk more about what's happening in the brain and body when we forgive. That it turns out that forgiveness involves more overcoming within ourselves of strong negative emotions like anger, shame, or the desire for revenge. That these heightened emotions can wreak havoc on our stress systems and can alter a sense of ourself as well. Our self, our values, our peace within, and also it can wreak havoc on our health. So the process of letting go, of forgiving, can create physiological relief. And some concepts of forgiving that can help is it's called perspective taking. That forgiveness doesn't require excusing someone's behavior, but it can sometimes involve understanding from a broader context, from a broader view, that possibly contemplating, did they intend to hurt us? Were they acting out of their own pain or confusion? Just a broader lens, and trying to see the situation in a broader sense that can sometimes help soften the edges of our pain. Not because we're letting them off from what they've done that's wrong, because we're not justifying. We're just viewing from a different expanse, that we're creating space to hold more complexity, that sometimes it's your own personal value system that really starts to equate what's forgivable and what's not. And that depends very much on the individual, the harm, and the relationship, that there's no universal rule. But sometimes it helps to ask, is it worth for me, if the value for me is heightened if I start a process to forgive? Is it worth something to me? Will it support my healing? And how important is it for me to move away from the grip of such intense emotion and pain. And these questions don't come with any easy answers, but they may be questions to contemplate in your process of supporting forgiveness. But these questions, they might just help guide the decision of what it's worth to you and your health and your well-being. That forgiveness is also a way in which we can monitor and regulate our own emotions as well. That we can shift down from anger. We can shift down resentment or grief and make deliberate choices about how we want to respond moment by moment. That it's about consciously deciding to possibly even contemplate to change our narrative, to possibly release ourselves from harmful thoughts, and to honor the parts of ourselves that are worthy and longing for peace. And with forgiveness, there's something very powerful about naming our hurt and speaking our pain and reflecting on our story and asking ourselves, how do I manage these strong emotions that may be overwhelming, that may be harming ourselves physiologically, emotionally, and our healing journey? And this kind of reflection, especially in a safe and facilitated conversations, possibly with very close and trusting friends, family, or clinicians, counselors, psychologists, that we can have these conversations where we can start to unknot some of the processes of forgiveness that can make all the difference. That forgiveness sometimes can create a space for empathy and clarity and healing. And some of the most profound stories come from people who've been deeply harmed, sometimes by those they've most depended on. And even in those situations, there's potential for release, for growth, and a renewed sense of self-worth when people share how they've moved towards forgiveness, how they've felt supported to then contemplate moving towards forgiveness. That they often speak of a weight being lifted, a lightness, or a return to themselves. That forgiveness isn't easy and it's not linear, and it's certainly not about forgetting. But when a person feels ready and when they choose on their own terms, that forgiveness can be one of the most transformative processes of all. That at its core, forgiveness means reducing negative emotions, reducing ruminating thoughts or harmful thoughts, and reducing behaviors that we carry with us towards someone else who has wronged us. And forgiveness is when you're ready, in whatever personal way you feel is right for you, to replace all of that emotional weight with something lighter, that possibly, after processing a lot of emotions, that it could feel like something that's emotional freedom. It's not about excusing the bad behavior. It's not about forgetting. And it's definitely not about pretending it didn't hurt or that it didn't matter. That some wounds run very deep and some betrayals have left scars. And in many situations, the most respecting thing you can do is not to reconcile, but to release. That sometimes forgiveness has its own inner liberation, not for them, for you. And as we've mentioned, or as I've mentioned, and let me make it really clear that forgiveness does not mean excusing harmful actions. It does not mean ignoring pain. It does not mean reconnecting with someone who isn't safe. That forgiveness can mean I'm not going to let what harm I have experienced control me anymore. That possibly releasing that bitterness, those strong emotions that's been stuck in your body, in your mind, and the nervous system, and choosing a path of peace over resentment. So that might feel for you like a far off goal of emotional freedom. And it's about moving forward towards that goal without carrying the pain with you. That forgiveness can be a choice that you make and an act of courage that it takes, as it's been said, it takes action. That some people think that the act of forgiveness is passive. That it's definitely not giving in, but it's the absolute opposite. That forgiveness is an act of courage. It's a choice to reclaim control and to heal and to grow. That it can mean that you're no longer letting the anger or the grief define your life. That I found a quote that I found was really interesting. So I'll just read it to you. It's not my words. Do you think peace of mind can be found in holding a grudge or wallowing in what could have been? So I'll read that again. Do you think peace of mind can be found in holding a grudge or wallowing in what could have been? Me neither. This is a quote by Dr. Stephen Maraboli. And there's another quote here, and it is unknown as far as I know. So it says, holding a grudge is like someone living rent-free in your head. That when you decide or when you take the steps, or possibly you already have, started taking the steps and understanding that forgiveness matters for you. And it starts to become more and more real that it is about you, your well-being, your peace of mind, your energy, your ability to take small but regular steps forward without dragging the weight of really strong emotions of resentment, of anger, and past pain. So this might be something that you have already experienced, the lighter feeling of when you've forgiven and moved through forgiveness of something or someone. That you might have gone through your own forgiveness process, that you may have an understanding that it's very layered and it brings up really big questions. Why should I forgive? How do I start? What if I'm not ready? What if it's not safe? And if you've experienced these questions, and they are real valid questions, that forgiveness isn't one size fits all, that it takes time and it looks different for everyone. So if you've already started the process, or you're supporting someone through a process of forgiveness, to understand that there's lots of layers and that it isn't linear and it's very personal as to how and what you do. And another side of the forgiveness that I would love to talk with you about is that over the last decade, that researchers have looked closely at the biology of forgiveness. And what they've found is incredible. That when we hold on to resentment, that our body stays in a state of low-grade fight or flight. That means within our body a higher cortisol, our main stress hormone. It's also increased risk of depression, anxiety, and PTSD, suppressed immune functions, trouble sleeping, even heart issues. But when we begin to forgive, even gradually, small steps, something shifts. That imaging studies have shown how forgiveness activates brain regions tied to empathy and perspective taking. That it claims it calms down areas linked to anger and rumination. That forgiveness literally rewires the brain and the body, and it restores balance. That Dr. John Hopkins found that forgiveness is associated with lower blood pressure, improved sleep. And there's also Harvard Health reports that forgiveness can lead to fewer symptoms of anxiety and depression and can boost longevity. That forgiveness might literally help us live longer. Knowing that forgiveness isn't a one-step thing, that it's more like a journey through multiple phases. And it may look like uncover the anger, name what happened and how it hurt you. That this might be part of the process that you communicate with somebody that you trust, that is safe. That you might decide to forgive, even if you're not sure how yet. That the intention matters. Another part of the process or layers might be to understand from a larger lens the context of the offenders. So this doesn't mean excusing their behaviour. It means putting the event into context when you feel ready to somehow find meaning of all the different interactions. And then it's also finding meaning on how this has changed you and what you can take forward. That I've heard it said that the worst possible event that may have happened to you, what can you take from it? Can you take more from it than what it took from you, in the way of unpacking and finding meaning and what you can take forward from that experience? So earlier we talked about decisional forgiveness, the choice to let go of resentment, and also the emotional forgiveness, the deeper shift, that replacing some of the very strong, bitter anger, resentment with compassion or understanding. And the truth is that sometimes in the process of forgiving that you'll need to revisit that it's not linear and that it's okay, that you will move through all the layering, all the processing, and it takes time to reclaim your power. That it's a very individual process to give yourself time, and knowing the worth of at least initiating or contemplating forgiveness, because forgiveness can reduce a sense of guilt and shame and isolation. It also can possibly reduce re-victimization, the feeling of helplessness, that you start to feel empowered of the choices that you're moving forward or towards. That it helps us to learn from past experiences where we don't forget, but we grow, and we use the past pain as a fuel for deeper awareness, better boundaries, and greater strength of our values and what we value. And forgiveness can also strengthen future relationships. That studies show that the more we value emotional connection, the more that we are instilled in setting boundaries and committing to ourself and our own health and growth, that it allows a stronger connection to relationships in the future. That sometimes forgiveness is done quietly within ourselves, and it can be how where the resolve is not just that chronic anger and resentment, that you start to feel the pressure in yourself, in holding the resentment and anger that you might feel or notice holding and ruminating, how it shifts your first nature. That as we improve the connection of how this is worth my health, my life, my peace, that possibly you begin the forgiveness process. That maybe it starts with identifying what you can or are likely to forgive. That it mightn't be the whole experience, but is there small components that you might be specific enough that I don't want to hold on to this anymore. And it might be multiple things that you want to start dismissing or reducing the heaviness in you, and understanding the purpose of why forgiveness is for you and not for them. That you don't need to erase or try to forget or push away. That to heal in seeing a different perspective, that it might be helpful to talk to someone you trust, or it might be helpful to journal your thoughts and experiences. That it's a process and layered, that forgiveness isn't a checkbox, that once you do this, you move to the next. That you might start really small, that this forgiveness muscle might build as you process through different experiences and shift and start to heal and trust the process. Because forgiveness can be the gift you give yourself. So it may take a little while, and it may be something you can contemplate or possibly consider, and then break it into smaller components, or seeing it from a different perspective. That forgiveness is not easy. That sometimes it's not quick. But to contemplate that forgiveness could be possible, and that you might in time consider the process of forgiveness, that it might be worthy to you, to your well-being and to your health. That when the time is right, that forgiveness can become one of the most powerful gifts that you'll ever give to yourself. Because you deserve peace. And working towards a sense of inner lightness, or it might feel you're returning to the person that you envision for your future, that you deserve to live free from the resentment, from the weight of anger, and you deserve to feel empowered as you move towards your strength, or a softness, or a sense of clarity. So please, if you're contemplating or you wish for a more empowered, clear, centered feeling within yourself, to take your time, to be gentle with yourself. But know that when you're ready, that forgiveness might just be the kindest thing you do for yourself. That as you contemplate, possibly thinking of, we don't forgive because the person that harmed us deserve it. That we forgive because we deserve peace. That there's many different studies that are centered around forgiveness and mental health and well-being. Studies on forgiveness and longevity. That the act of healing that is forgiveness is at the core of reducing negative emotions, thoughts, and behaviours that we carry towards someone who has wronged us. And when we're ready, replacing all that weight with something lighter, possibly emotional freedom. So as you contemplate this concept of forgiveness and what it's worth to you, that it may help with a healthier mindset or healthier physiological effect, that it might bring a consciousness of reclaiming control, to heal and to grow. And in fact, it might be one of the most liberating and life-affirming acts that you give yourself. That this is about your well-being, your peace of mind, your ability to move forward. And as we've coined it, possible emotional freedom. So thank you so much for sharing this time. I'm always interested in any feedback, and I wish you well. And I look forward to sharing more Quest Connect and experiencing all that life gets to offer us. So keep well, and I hope to tune in again with you soon. Thank you.